Very disturbing news coming in from Jammu and Kashmir. Reports coming in of at least 40 feared dead in a devastating cloudburst in Kishtwar area of Jammu and Kashmir. 120 people are injured. More than 50 have been rescued. 120 were rescued just a short while back. 50 people have just been rescued. Several are still missing, according to information that's just coming in. At least 2 CISF Jawans on duty are among the 40 whose bodies have been recovered. Several are still missing. Now, these were flash floods that came after a cloudburst in the Kishtwar area, and this is near the Machal Mata Mandir in the Doda Kishtwar belt. At least 3 CISF Jawans are among those who are still missing. That temporary base camp at the base of the hill where the Machal Mata Mandir Yatra starts, several tents for devotees en route the Mata Mandir. Now, these tents have also been swept away. There are reports that there are several devotees and members of some groups that are yet to be accounted for. The administration has urged devotees not to come anywhere close to the Yatra area. Now, the road en route has also been washed away in places, and that's hampering relief and rescue operations. Still, sometime back it was raining, so helicopter operations were also curtailed. People are being asked, those who are still en route the Yatra area, they are being told just turn around and go home, stay safe, because we do not know how long will these rescue operations, relief and rescue operations continue in the region. The army, the NDRF, the National Disaster Response Force and the state disaster response teams, they have been deployed. There are additional teams that are en route. So Udhampur is a big NDRF base. There are 180 NDRF personnel with the most modern equipment. They've already been dispatched. We are told some teams have reached, local teams have reached, additional teams are being mobilized. Medical assistance is being provided. The army has also been mobilized to provide immediate relief and rescue. There are helicopters on standby. Army hospital has been put on standby. Udhampur has the Northern Command headquarters hospital. There's also a big civil hospital in Udhampur. They're on standby. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is taking stock of the situation, is what we've been told. Jammu Kashmir Chief Minister Omar Abdullah, the Lieutenant Governor of Jammu and Kashmir, Manoj Sinha, they're taking stock of the situation. The Chief Minister has spoken to the Union Home Minister and he's been assured all help. Amit Shah, we are told, is monitoring the situation and has assured the Chief Minister Omar Abdullah all possible assistance will be given to the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir and to the Chief Minister to ensure that all those who are still caught in these flash floods, all relief reaches them. 2 of my colleagues, Sunilji Bhatt and Mir Farid, join me on this big story. Sunilji, what more can you tell us right now? Relief and rescue operations, and do we have the latest figures of those who've been rescued and the efforts that are currently underway?
Gaurav, a massive tragedy has struck the far-flung this district of Jammu and Kashmir, that is Kishtwar district. And what we are learning from our sources is that more than 38 bodies have been recovered from the debris, and more than 120 people are being treated at different hospitals, whether it's the subdivision hospital in Padar or the district hospital in Kishtwar.
Okay. Okay, give me a moment, because this network where our reporters are very, very patchy network. Mir Farid also joins us. Mir, we were told helicopters were on standby. The immediate army teams that were there in the area, they've been deployed. But what more can you tell us, Mir?
Gaurav, as you know, this is the operational area of the Delta Force, and under the Delta Force, 17 RR has been told to immediately dispatch rescue teams. Now, there are medical teams also of the army who have reached hospitals in the location, as well as the QRTs who have reached the spot and are aiding the local administration in the rescue effort. Medical teams are looking after the patients who are coming in big numbers in nearby hospitals. They have been told to stay put there and ensure that that they provide the best treatment to the injured. Now, this is a massive tragedy, as we have been saying, and still there are around 200 people, around 190 to 200, who are still unaccounted for, and for them the operation is ongoing. As you rightly said, weather is bad, choppers can't fly, and that has definitely not helped these rescue efforts, because NDRF teams are specialized teams who have the necessary wherewithal equipment to deal with such a rescue situation, and had the weather been better and had choppers been able to fly, they would have reached the location, and that would have really fast-tracked the rescue efforts, because time is critical. The more the delay in reaching the people who are stuck, this really would mean that their toll could increase. So that really is something that's happening right now. But yes, efforts are underway, and they're trying their best to ensure that the NDRF teams reach the location as soon as possible. Gaurav?
Mir, and this isn't the only area where there's been a flash flood. This, of course, is the worst impacted area right now, but I believe there have been other flash floods and other areas in Kashmir where the situation is grim. Are people being evacuated from some areas? Mir Farid, if you can hear me, I believe there are flash floods in some other areas too, and apparently some emergency measures are being taken there. Administration are asking people to move to safer areas. Okay, give me a moment as I try and reestablish this link with our reporters, but I want to show you these images. This is where the flash flood this afternoon led to. There you can see some vehicles were swept away. A causeway and a temporary bridge in this area, we are told, that was adversely impacted, and some vehicles were also swept away in the flash floods, and these are devotees who come in very large numbers. We have a reaction from the Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Omar Abdullah, from Farooq Abdullah, also from Dr. Jitendra Singh, Union Minister of State for Science and Technology and Member of Parliament of the area. Their reactions have also come in, and they're saying all efforts are being made to ensure emergency services reach this area as quickly as possible. The two images that you see on your television screen are those of Kishtwar and of Pahalgam. So Pahalgam is the other area where there was a flash flood, and Pahalgam is the area where again people are being asked to move to safer areas. But it's in Kishtwar where the flash flood actually took away a part of that village and the base camp for the yatra, for the temple yatra that had been set up, and several tents, we are told, unfortunately were swept away. So as Mir Farid was telling us, that the situation right now is unfortunately close to 200 people, between 180 and 200 people are yet to be accounted for. Listen in to Farooq Abdullah and Dr. Jitendra Singh. I'll get you more on the story.
कितने वहाँ पे जख्मी है? अभी मुझे एक साहब ने फ़ोन किया, उन्होंने तो मुझे कहा कि 400 के करीब ज़ख्मी है और फ़ौरन उनको चाहिए कि हेलीकॉप्टर आ सके। किसी की कमर टूटी है, किसी का बाजू, किसी के टांग, हर किस्म की जो है इंजरीज हुई हैं। ये कहना कि फ़ाइनल टोल क्या होगा वो अभी कहना आसान नहीं है, क्योंकि इस वक्त वो सब लगे हुए हैं रेस्क्यू ऑपरेशन में। किसी तरह से लोगों को बचाया जाए, उनको सेफ जगहों पर लिया जाए, और हम उम्मीद करते हैं कि ऊपर वाला बचाएगा लोगों को, और हम उम्मीद करें कि डेथ टोल कम हो।
There has been a massive cloud burst in the area which he represents, which also happens to be possibly the route of the very popular Machel Yatra, which takes place over there during this part of the year. And the cloudburst is of a massive scale, which could possibly lead to a substantial casualty, which has not yet been worked out. As immediately we got in touch with the district administration, and the district administration was also at a loss because it had taken everybody by surprise. They have already started moving towards the site, because the site is also difficult as far as the topography and the geographical situation and geographical location is concerned. The rescue teams have already swung into action. Very soon we'll get more details. My office, me, we are all in touch with each other. But every possible assistance will be provided, whatever required, even including the medical management. And if there are certain injured who need to be shifted out. The administration will also make arrangements of airlifting through the helicopter, which is of course subject to the weather conditions. We'll keep you updated also.
So fingers crossed, if the weather improves, the moment there's the first sign that a helicopter can take off, all efforts will be made to get the helicopters to Russian additional manpower resources that are required to be a part of this relief and rescue operation. Dr. Jitendra Singh, Minister of State, Science and Technology Independent Charge, and also Member of Parliament of the area, we are told he's trying to get to Kishtwar as quickly as possible. The effort is all hands on the deck and effective supervision. Chief Minister, Jammu Kashmir, Omar Abdullah has also said that his entire effort and the entire effort of the entire administration is to ensure that all relief operations can be speeded up, whether by road or whether permitting by air. So two images on your television screen are of Kishtwar and of Pahalgam. The army team already on ground, Jammu and Kashmir police team already on ground with initial rescue operations. And what are the main difficulties right now? I'll come to Mir Farid in just a moment, but I believe Dr. Jitendra Singh, Minister of State, Science and Technology and Member of Parliament of the area, joins us. Dr. Singh, what can you tell us? What's the latest situation right now in Kishtwar?
No, I think, Gaurav, is the most unfortunate situation because this is, of course, a natural calamity coupled with natural limitations and natural constraints. The helicopters are not able to fly as required. Otherwise, we would have been quick in shifting some of the injured to the better hospital facilities in Jammu, and even if required to PGI Chandigarh, but it's not being possible. And hopefully, we are also in touch with IMD. The weather is said to be rainy for the next 2 days, but likely to improve tomorrow. I am myself waiting to leave as soon as there is slight improvement in the weather. But we are all in touch with each other. The process of shifting the injured from the site has started. Most of them have already reached, many of them, almost 100 of them have reached the Kishtwar district hospital. And from there, the process of shifting them over, some of them to the Government Medical College, Doda, and the more seriously injured ones to the Government Medical College in Jammu, but all of this mostly happening by road transport as of now. So even
Sir, is the road
some of the
intact?
additional rescue teams are not able to reach that site because the connecting road also has got washed off. In fact, there was no road there till about 3-4 years back. It was my consistent persuasion as an MP, we got a road in place. Thought we had done great ease of travel for the yatris, but unfortunately, this has taken everybody by surprise. And in fact, when this happened, even the district administration, I was possibly the first one because one of my local workers, being elected representative from there, called me up. I was in the middle of a media briefing in the National Media Center. So there was an urgent call. So one local worker who was a witness to this, he told me that something very catastrophic has happened, which he's never seen in his whole life, and he was so panicky and upset, and he didn't know whom to reach out to because everything was cut off, and the mobile signal is also not very easy over there. Only about 3-4 years back, we got the mobile towers in place, and there was no power, electricity till a few years ago. We got a solar plant installed. So everything has gone haywire. So soon after he called me up, then I called up the district commissioner over there, Mr. Sharma, and then started moving towards the site, but they could not actually. They had a lot of difficulties on the way because everything had been washed away.
Some reports seem to indicate that the numbers of those missing could be in hundreds. Farooq Abdullah Saab seemed to indicate it could be up to 400 people.
What has actually happened is that in the last few years, particularly the last 3 years, the number of there's a sudden upsurge in the number of devotees and also in the popularity of this yatra, because this was a very, very difficult terrain and it was not easy or possible for every devotee to undertake that difficult trek to that shrine. And there were no basic amenities. It's only in the last 5-7 years under the present government that it was provided mostly through the central assistance. The mobile towers were put in place, the toilet amenities, a road there, electricity there, and that also gave a surge to the number of. And this is the time when the yatra actually happens. And the point, incidentally, the exact location is the place where the yatra actually takes off after covering the road journey. And so there were people waiting to take off, people already there. There might have been about 1,500 to 2,000 people right at the place where this actually happened. And in addition to that, some of the local inhabitants as well. So it's everything very bizarre right now and very scary, actually.
It does indeed sound very scary, sir. What other resources are being sent into these operations? What kind of resources are required? What are the local inputs that you are receiving, sir?
Government of India is open to providing every resource, because the Prime Minister immediately, as soon as he received the report, he held a briefing, got himself updated about everything, and since he's personally now monitoring, so there's no dearth of assistance being available. It's only how to make it available there. That's the point. Unless there is slight improvement in the weather conditions, many of us, and also many of the media persons, even your representative over here, Sunil, is right now stranded at Batot. You know the place very well. You did that.
Yes.
He is yet to get into that road, that bifurcation road towards Doda. He's in Batot, and that's the reason also, because you're finding it difficult to connect with him. So, and because of the rain also, it's not easy to travel by road as well. And one doesn't know how far one would be able to travel by road, because there are so many landslides en route, even along the highway which leads up to that place. Because it is Kishtwar to Padar, and then beyond Padar. It's like that.
Yes. Dr. Jitendra Singh for joining me here.
So the moment it starts, there's a slight improvement, we'll all start moving towards the place, or at least towards Kishtwar.
And wish you all the best, and the entire team all the best in the rescue operations. Hope as many lives as possible can be saved as quickly as possible. This truly is a race against time. Dr. Jitendra Singh for joining me here on India Today. Many thanks. We will continue to track developments on the story very closely, but for the moment I want to shift focus to our top story. India today slammed Pakistan after 4 days of intense provocation and the inflammatory rhetoric from Pakistan. The spokesperson for the Ministry of External Affairs, Randhir Jaiswal, he condemned what he called was a pattern of reckless warmongering by Pakistan and hateful statements that came from the Pakistani leadership, exposing what he described was a well-known modus operandi to divert attention from the internal failures of Pakistan. And that is why Pakistan is fueling this anti-India hatred even on their Independence Day. This sharp response comes after Pakistan's Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif, who incidentally, even inside Pakistan, is known as boot polish, someone who only serves the Pakistan army. So Shahbaz Sharif claimed that the recent 4-day border clash was a historic victory for Pakistan, and they live in La La Land. However, tensions are rising on another front: India-US relations. US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, he's warned of additional tariffs on India if the upcoming Putin-Trump talks fail. But India is, of course, pushing ahead with a very clear message of strategic economic autonomy. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, he is scheduled to visit Russia, even as Chinese Foreign Minister and Special Representative on the boundary talks, Wang Yi, prepares to arrive in Delhi ahead of the crucial border and trade talks. So, as this diplomatic wires heat up, we decode this global chakravyuh that India is navigating.
Pakistan Prime Minister provokes yet again, invoking war, ideology and propaganda ahead of India's Independence Day. Glorifying the border clash during Operation Sindoor, the Pakistan Prime Minister claimed victory, alleging that the war was imposed by India, peddling falsehood of win for Pakistan Army. He claimed that India was brought to its knees and invoked the divisive two-nation theory, once again calling for Indus waters sharing. His message echoed Army Chief General Asim Munir's statements, who has months ago called Kashmir Pakistan's jugular vein and claiming military victory over India. India has hit back hard, condemning Pakistan's anti-India rhetoric to hide their own failure.
We have seen reports regarding a continuing pattern of reckless, warmongering and hateful comments from Pakistani leadership against India. It is well known that modus operandi of the Pakistani leadership to whip up anti-India rhetoric time and again to hide their own failures. Pakistan would be well advised to temper its rhetoric, as any misadventure will have painful consequences, as was demonstrated recently.
But even as Pakistan plays to its domestic gallery, what's raising eyebrows is the timing. Just hours before Sharif's statement, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio congratulated Pakistan, calling Islamabad a valued partner on counter-terror and trade. Yet that very same Washington is now warning India of further tariffs if the Trump-Putin talks in Alaska fail this Friday. India is already facing a 25% penalty for energy trade with Russia. But India isn't blinking.
India and the United States share a comprehensive global strategic partnership anchored in shared interests, democratic values and robust people-to-people ties. This partnership has weathered several transitions and challenges, as we had said earlier as well. We remain focused on the substantive agenda that the two countries have committed to, and we hope that the relationship will continue to move forward based on mutual respect and shared interests.
External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar is heading to Moscow next week for key consultations ahead of President Putin's expected visit. And while Washington turns the heat up, Delhi is preparing to host Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi. Amid shifting equations, New Delhi is not reacting in panic. It's shaping the narrative. Bureau Report, India Today.
So India is right in midst of this chakravyuh of changing global equations. The fourth largest economy of the world actually just cannot afford to ignore. But is the mask slipping of some of those who claim to be friends? It's now becoming apparent that friends and foe alike don't want India to rise at the pace at which India wants to rise. But India will rise, with or without them. Joining me on India First from Washington, D.C., Seema Sirohi, columnist and author, Friends with Benefits, General Tiny Dhillon, Lieutenant General K.J.S. Dhillon, former Kashmir Corps commander, former DG of India's Defense Intelligence Agency, Ambassador Vivek Kaju, former Secretary in the Ministry of External Affairs, our former Ambassador to Afghanistan, Sushant Sareen is Senior Fellow at the Observer Research Foundation, Sandeep Unithan is a Senior Journalist, joins us on the show. Seema Sirohi, what do you make of US Secretary Treasury Scott Bessent, when he's reported to have said that US has already imposed secondary tariffs on India on purchasing Russian oil? If things don't go well, additional sanctions or secondary tariffs could be increased. Is the US trying to bully India or fire off India's shoulder ahead of talks with Russia?
That's a possibility, and the US is just trying to show that it has leverage. It's unfortunate where things are, and if things don't work out well in Alaska in this meeting, yes, it's very possible that the US might impose more tariffs, because right now, while the bilateral relationship with India is moving, things are, people are going back and forth and meeting each other. The top man, that is President Trump, is very hostile to India because he didn't get a trade deal that he wanted. He didn't get the acknowledgement that he wanted for, quote unquote, making the ceasefire happen. So there are lots, the personal has got mixed up with the strategic, and that's really unfortunate. It's going to be a very challenging time ahead.
And usually it takes two to tango. But if America wants to be hostile, what are India's options, Ambassador Kaju? What do you make of US threatening India with additional tariffs if the Putin-Trump talks don't succeed?
Well, I think that will be unfortunate, but if they do that, it's a reality we'll have to face. There's nothing that you can do if they decide to impose unilaterally additional tariffs. What is the way ahead? And I think that is the basic thrust of your question. Now, in order to do that, in order to answer that, let me take you back. I think for the last 8 years or so, Gaurav, and let's be candid, we started taking our relationship with the Americans for granted. We thought that there's a certain permanence to this relationship. And therefore, we started, I won't use the word abandoning, but started ignoring the traditional patterns of our strategic thinking and our strategic actions, which were based on multipolarity. We had problems with China and they will not go away. But we tried in the past to have a modus vivendi. Of course, Galwan put an end to it. Galwan was not precipitated by us, it was precipitated by them. And more than that, I think with Russia, there was a certain distance that had developed. You've mentioned that Jaishankar will be going to Russia and that Wang Yi is going to come to India. Now, it's not easy to suddenly turn a new leaf. It's not easy. It's a painful process. Today, I very carefully heard what Randhir had to say in his statement, that we are still committed to the comprehensive strategic partnership with the United States, and we will keep focusing on its substantive aspects. Seema would know this better, she is in Washington, but my own understanding is that there are segments and major segments of the American establishment which is conscious that the Indian relationship is important and they don't want it to be damaged because of what is happening at present. But of one thing I'm clear, that the American establishment is going back to the old system.
Okay.
And what is the old system? That the west of India, they don't want India to play an active role. They never have. For Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran, and beyond, they want India to be in more of a passive role. Yes, now they have an interest in India to its east. They want us to be more active in the Indo-Pacific area, so that will continue. And they are segmented then these. So they are going back to the old pattern in my last sentence. And we have very painfully, it's going to be a painful process. It will be also a process which many will find embarrassing because many in our establishment have been deeply committed.
Yes.
And especially have demonstrated in the last 8 years, they've gone beyond need to demonstrate our closeness to the United States. So they will find walking back to be an extremely embarrassing and painful affair, but they'll have to do it.
But if America is not embarrassed doing what it is, my point is we should be as transactional as they are. Of course, they're a $30 trillion economy, and we are still a $5 trillion, hoping to be a $5 trillion economy.
Yes, but may I say a sentence? Why embarrassment?
Yes,
because they were so vested in it. They were wearing their vesting on their sleeve.
Yes.
That is why they'll be embarrassed. The Americans were not doing that. Some of our leaders were. I will not name them.
No, you're absolutely right. It's visible for all to see. General Dhillon, does the US think that India will buckle under the kind of pressure it's trying to mount on us? And your appreciation, we've withstood sanctions in the past. Additional tariffs is bullying tactics. Your appreciation of how we, should deal with this situation, because clearly we will not bend, because this cost of bullying, if we bend now, they'll make us crawl each time.
Good evening, Gauarv, and good evening to fellow panelists and your viewers, and absolutely correct. See, when after the Second World War, first 40 years, it saw the world in a bipolar mode. Thereafterwards, the collapse of Soviet Union, a unipolar world emerged. And now when multipolarity is emerging in the world with Russia re-emerging, China, India, now that is not being liked by a few people. But if you see in the history of independent India, our foreign policy has never been knee-jerk. Our foreign policy has been always very stable and with a long-term perspective. We had a non-aligned foreign policy. And when, after the fall of Soviet Union and the Cold War having been over, we were friendly to each and every one. Even today, the war zones which are happening in the world, Russia, Ukraine, we are friendly to both. Iran, Israel, we are friendly to both. And we are friendly to everyone, including the USA. So these knee-jerk reactions, or every morning you get up and you come out with something new, this is not the way foreign policy works. Ambassador Kardju is on the panel. He is more experienced on this. I see it from the sidelines of geostrategy. And what is most important from India's point of view is, even in the defense ties, we are not slave to only one country. We have defense ties with Russia, we have defense ties with Israel, we have defense ties with France, we have defense ties with USA, and many other countries.
So how do we take this?
How do we take this forward? We have never been seen to be overtly or overly friendly to anyone, and we have always been seen to be standing on our 2 feet. Economy of our size, population of our size, the biggest democracy in the world, we take foreign policy in a very matured manner and not on a knee-jerk manner. This is posturing which is happening, and let's be very clear about it. India cannot be ignored, especially in the subcontinent and Indo-Pacific. Especially
so,
when
Shansarin, is that also... Okay, so Shansarin, this is also your appreciation that this is posturing by the United States of America. They want to see if we'll buckle, if we'll bend, and if we don't, then Trump may furiously backpedal. He's known to have done that with others who kind of stared him down.
Okay, so Gauarv, Trump stared down, the people who stared down Trump were able to do it. The question is, will we be able to do it? That is one. Secondly, this whole thing about, we are friends with him, like General Dhillon is saying. Personally, I feel in international relations, friendship is a very highly overrated concept, right? There is no friendship. If you have interest, you do business. You don't have interest, or you have competing interests, you don't do business. I disagree with my friend Ambassador Kardju when he says we are going back to an old pattern of west of India and east of India. When was that pattern not there? I remember in the 2000s, the Americans very often would come and tell us, despite the fact that terrorism was coming into India from Pakistan, that listen, west of India, we are 5% in agreement with you and 95% in disagreement. East of India, we are 95% in agreement with you, 5% disagreement. So how is that changed? That equation remains pretty much the same. The next point is about what Seema was talking about tariffs. Yeah, listen, if you are imposing 50% tariffs, my trade is dead anyways with you, right? Now you go up to 500%, it doesn't matter because that trade is not going to take place. The only thing which matters is, am I going to impose any retaliatory tariffs or not, or forward, right? And that will then depend on certain other calculations. And then finally, this whole business, Gauarv, of what will happen in Alaska on the basis of that, will sanctions or the penalties on India be lifted, reminds me of Pakistan wanting to get into semi-finals and doing permutation and combination, that if this guy loses from that guy and that guy wins from somebody else, then we will sneak into the semi-final slot. This is, listen, frankly speaking, it doesn't really matter what happens in Alaska.
So you're saying the relationship is already... Okay. I mean, Donald Trump has just shown he doesn't care. He doesn't care. I want to bring in Sandeep Punithan before I bring in Seema Sirohi and Ambassador Karju to respond to some very important points that have been made.
One small point. One small point, please.
Go on, sir.
You know, the other thing is about should we give in to American bullying or not? Let's not forget we gave in to American bullying when they told us we will impose secondary sanctions on you on Iranian oil. So we stopped buying oil from Iran, which we used to buy in large measure. This time, what is different is that, you know, there is a way of doing these things. You tell me on my face that I will impose this sanction and that sanction, and you know, you speak in an insulting way, it gets the other guys back up. And the last point is, you know, a lot of us people have been saying that, okay, fine, we can, you know, look for new markets, we can go to Europe. Yeah, Europe could not stand up for itself. You think Europe is going to stand up for us? So let's get real about what we are facing.
That's a pertinent point. That's a pertinent point. But what about you know, the Gulf countries? Or is America so powerful that it will prevail on Europe and on Gulf countries, and they will continue to cut their nose to spite their face, which some of them have been in the past? But very, very important points you're making. Sandeep, US may try, and you know, this is what some are saying, that for them this is posturing. For the US, it's only, for Trump especially, it's all about bargaining. He'll try his best. If it doesn't work out, he'll furiously backpedal. But has the damage already been done? Whether they backpedal, whether it comes down from 50% to 25% or 20%, or as some were saying that 15% is an okay figure, the damage has already been done to the relationship. वो गांठ तो पड़ गई है रिश्ते में.
Absolutely. You know, Gaurav, what has happened is that Trump has just driven this truck filled with explosives into this building, this edifice of Indo-US ties that has been built so carefully since Bill Clinton's visit in 2000, in March 2000 to be precise. That is the first visit by an American president in 20 years. Ever since, the Indo-US relationship has been carefully built, president after president. And what Trump has done now is that he has literally driven a truck into that building. And it is... you know, while this may be good, it's tariffs, it's negotiations and all that, I think South Bloc is not going to forget those harsh words that he used for us, right? And yes. South Bloc has very long memories. Ambassador Karju and his friends, his colleagues there, they have very long memories. They will remember these things in the future as well. When it comes to are American arms safe from sanctions? Well, clearly not, because we've just heard it being used, you know, that as leverage in countries in Southeast Asia, that they've been not allowed to use American arms to fight because the Americans didn't want them to fight. How safe are American weapons from sanctions, you know, and what prevents the United States from sanctioning us on the weapons that we already have? We've heard of supply chain issues, Gaurav, and this is something we've never heard.
Suffering it on G404 engines?
Absolutely.
We're suffering it for 2 years plus.
Every lever that is there is being used. And I'm not surprised. You know, 2025 is sounding a lot like 1971, at least for the rhetoric, the kind of words that are being thrown around. It seems like Nixon and Kissinger are back in the White House, Gaurav.
Seema Sirohi, would you agree with that? I mean, you've written we are friends with benefits. Clearly, there are no benefits here either. But does it sound like the return to the Nixon-Kissinger era? And Indira Gandhi, of course, had the Russian, the then Soviet, relationship to withstand the pressure. But are we back to that era with Trump and Rubio?
I don't think it's quite, the coming of the Seventh Fleet, etc. I think it's more like 1998 when India tested the nuclear weapons and the US imposed sanctions. But there was, a process that could bring the relationship back to normal. People started talking. The Jaswant Singh stroke Talbot dialogue happened within weeks. And that was very important. Here, there is no process. And the top man, whatever he says, everybody kind of falls in line. Scott Bessent, Howard Lutnick, and, Ricky Gill was in New Delhi talking about the bilateral relationship and working out the Quad summit, etc. But if President Trump decides he's not coming, he's not coming. Yeah. That's it. The problem with this administration, it's a one-man show. And India doesn't have a channel to that one man. And that to me is the biggest problem. Of course, with time, we shall see if an accommodation can be reached on trade or on other things. But I'd like to point out on the China front, the US policy on China is very unclear. Whether President Trump will get a deal with Beijing, that puts a whole different, color on everything that happens in South Asia. So yes, it's very challenging. It seems the lobbyist who's working for India, he's not able to get to Trump's ear, while the Pakistanis are gaining from strength to strength, on a day-to-day basis when you look at it. Why else would the chief, army air chief, army chief, have the gumption to issue a nuclear threat from
My God,
US?
obnoxious. Yeah. So explain that. And the US silence, Seema Sirohi, before I bring in Ambassador Kajju, explain that. How can he get away with it in a country that says, nuclear non-proliferation is so good, even though their record is very dodgy, turning a blind eye to Pakistan. But explain this, ma'am.
I think clearly he feels emboldened. He thinks that the India relationship with the US is on the down and down, while with Pakistan it's on the up and up. That's number one. Number two, I think CENTCOM commander, the outgoing commander, General Kurela, somehow developed a very special relationship with Asim Munir over the years. It's not new. And then Munir delivered that terrorist who was involved in the Abbey Gate. Another dynamic that's happening is the Indo-PACOM versus the CENTCOM dynamics. Clearly, CENTCOM is on the ascendant, it seems to me, sitting out here, because nobody's talking about the Indo-Pacific very much. In fact, they've started using the word Asia-Pacific.
I heard that.
Which is the choice of China. China never wanted the name Indo-Pacific. So all these things are going on, making it very challenging to move ahead.
So let me bring in Ambassador Kajju, especially on the Pakistan aspect, the kind of terminology used by Asim Munir, the kind of words being used by Shahbaz Sharif, even on their Independence Day, instead of talking about Pakistan's glory, they're talking about war with India. What do you make of Asim Munir's obnoxious nuclear saber-rattling and the Trump presidency or the administration's silence on it?
Well, on Asim Munir, I had advocated that we should lodge a diplomatic protest against his breaking diplomatic norms. I don't know whether that's been done, but that's the least we could do, and then see how the Americans react. On China, I would hazard a guess. I'm conscious of what Seema has said. But I'm getting the feeling increasingly that Trump wants to reach some kind of a modus vivendi with China. That seems to me to be the direction in which he's headed. It may not happen, but that seems to be. Because he's on trade, for example, unlike us, China buys more Russian oil than we do, but he's very wary. He's extended the period, the moratorium period, while the trade talks go on. In a way, I'm happy that Sushant, unwittingly perhaps, but agreed with what I said. I was saying that we ourselves thought that to the west of India, the Americans were changing. And we thought that the FATF, for example, was an indication that they were changing, that in 2021 they were very angry, having lost the Afghanistan war, and therefore a hiatus was developing between them and the Pakistanis. And there was a certain coldness during the Biden administration, and I'm sure Seema will bear me out on this, that there was a great deal of coldness between the Pakistanis and the Americans. So we thought that we were in a good spot as far as the west of India was concerned. And that now has changed very substantively. So I agree with Sushant that whereas it was 95% Pakistan, 5% India to the west, and the other way around to the east, that has come out in stark relief now. That is the difference.
So what are India's options right now,
Well,
General Dhillon?
that is why I have said that you have to go back to your old patterns of diplomacy. It's going to be a painful walk back. You have to go to the Russians, knowing full well that for the last many years, you were focused more on the Americans, at least for the last 8 years, you were focused entirely on the Americans. You signed all the foundational agreements. You went out of your way to ensure that the American sensitivities were kept taken into account. With China, you had Galwan. The normalization process has been very difficult. That old talk that both China and India have space to grow, all that is over. I believe the 1990s can't be resurrected. And above all, within the Indian people, there's an enormous suspicion of China. I, in fact, till all this began in spring this year with Pahalgam, I, for one, thought that our people were more focused strategically. Our strategic class certainly was more focused on China. General Dhillon might disagree with me, but I do think
and that's why I want to bring in General Dhillon. But, sir,
all that has changed.
My simple point is, we still went ahead and bought the S-400s despite American reluctance to go for the S-400s, and in Operation Sindoor, it held us in great stead. General Dhillon, did we abandon Russia? Because, whether it's the nuclear submarine, whether it's the kind of technology that Russia offers us, which America never will, did we abandon Russia? The fact that we've remained engaged with them, we're still taking the oil despite the American criticism. But 2 points here. As this relationship with China improves, will China think that we are vulnerable because our relationship with America is turning sour, and that's why will China be more conciliatory or be more demanding in your appreciation? And now, do we have trouble on our northern borders and our western borders and a hostile America, which may give us grief on perhaps the human rights issues and so many other points? But let me take them one by one, General Dhillon.
Gauarv, I'll again, at the cost of reputation, we'll see foreign policies do not change with the change of day. Foreign policies are long-term perspectives of the nation, and we have been very stable in our foreign policy over the years. Ambassador Karju is a person who's probably have been the main instrument in all these things, and his colleagues. And this thing, like, who can guarantee me on this panel that tomorrow Trump won't come down to, okay, I come down to 15% tariffs, or I go to 65%? Can anyone guarantee what he's going to say tomorrow? So we should not be unnecessarily, claiming a point which is knee-jerk from other side also. And we should not be giving a knee-jerk reaction. We have very big economy, we have very big country, we have very big military force, and we are very biggest democracy. We need to be very firm and very long-term perspective. And as Sushant Singh was saying, there are no friends, there's only interest. I understand that quotation. But the point is, you will only be friends if you have interest. If you have no interest, you will not be friends. So if we are friends with someone today, we have interest, and we are discussing it today just because we have friends and we have interests, and those interests are getting a little bit hampered. So it is in our interest to play it cool, not to get on to knee-jerk reactions. Foreign policies don't work like that. And the scenario building which you did, northern border China, western border Pakistan, human rights and other things, when was it not there in the past? Did we not face it all very bravely? Everyone was, talking about human rights. Everyone was talking about Pakistan. Everyone was talking about China. So what's new in this? And only thing which is new in this is we are a much powerful nation today. We have much powerful political will. We have a much powerful economy, and we have much stronger military. That is what is
Sushant
new.
Sareen?
And
Okay.
I think we should be very stable.
Okay, we should be able to weather this storm. Sushant Sareen, will our ties with China improve, or will China now think that because there is tension with America, they will not be as conciliatory as we would perhaps expect them to be? Or they would look at this as an opportunity, try and get more access to Indian markets as we want stable borders or peace at the borders?
Yeah, okay. One, I just have a suggestion for Seema. The next book should be Friends with Penalties rather than Friends with Benefits. But on your own question, look, again, what we are doing is what will China do? On the basis of that, it will decide whether Sri Lanka has won the match. Will Pakistan get in? Or Sri Lanka has lost the match and then Pakistan is out. We are getting into those calculations. China will make its own.
No, we are not. We're just looking at an opportunity in an adversity.
No, 1 second. So China will make its own calculation. It could make a calculation that, well, the old G2 formula of Obama is coming to fruition, right? That the Americans are now going to be withdrawing at least substantially from Asia, and that China will be the top dog in this region. So why the hell will they be reaching out to us? If they reach out to us, it will be as something of a hegemon. They will want our markets. They will not open their markets. The old equation, which has been happening in the past. Or the Chinese could come to a conclusion, well, this is the time to put the Americans and that entire G7 bloc in its place, and that to drive a much closer relationship between India, between Iran, between Russia, between all the other countries. And then we will have to figure out at what point of time and at what terms and conditions our relations with the Chinese are going to improve. But I have to say one thing. It's very easy to say that we lost interest in Russia. The Russians also lost interest in us. After the fall of communism in Russia, what were the Russians doing? They were sucking up to the West big time, much more than what we've ever done. And what were their attitude towards us? When we wanted defense equipment, it was not coming our way. So we had to start diversifying at that point of time. So listen, the point is that the Russians started changing only around 2008, 2009. That is when the tension started coming. Otherwise, they were a member of the G8. They were dining on that big table out there. So their interest in us had also come down. And similarly, we also kind of figured out that we had other fish to fry in Europe, in the US, in other countries of the world. So yes, equations change. The equations change all the time. And last point, we didn't buy Russian oil because we were trying to do sanction busting. We didn't buy Russian oil because we were trying to bail out Russia. We bought Russian oil because we were getting a damn good deal. Right?
And there were no sanctions. There was just a price cap of 60.
We were buying it at that point. Now suddenly they're holding it against us. And now this same conversation could have happened silently on the background. In case with the oil cap becoming more or less redundant, it could have worked out in a way that we would have normally started.
So the last 30 seconds that I have, I want to quickly bring in Sandeep on the Russian weaponry, because with Dr. Jaishankar headed there, with NSA having gone there, with Raksha Mantri also engaging Russia extensively, the defense hardware cooperation ahead of President Putin's visit is likely to be big, Sandeep. That's in the works, I believe.
Absolutely, Gaurav. And, as we've discussed in the past, that the Russians are making a lot of unprecedented hardware offers to us. Weapons that have never been offered to us, like the Caliber long-range cruise missile, 1,500 kilometers. The very long-range air-to-air missile, like the R-37, which is a range of something like 200 kilometers. They're offering us all of this cutting-edge technology that was not on offer before, because we've seen the performance of Russian hardware in Operation Sindoor, the S-400 missile systems, the BrahMos missile, an Indo-Russian joint venture. I've been talking to people in Russia today. They're talking about, what more can we do that could mimic the BrahMos model, for instance. Probably drone warfare. Russia has enormous capacities, capabilities in drone warfare, which it would be delighted to help India with. So there's lots to talk about. Defense has always been a key pillar of Indo-Russian cooperation, and that's set to continue with President Putin's visit to Delhi. Gaurav.
I've unfortunately run out of time on this part of the show, but yes, there's an adversity, there's also an opportunity. Russia, France, do they offer that opportunity right now for India, Europe, and of course, countries in the Gulf region, Southeast Asia? There's so much to talk about in the next several days and weeks. To all my guests, many thanks for joining me.